So you want to get into turkey hunting for the first time. You need to know some of the basic stuff. That's what this video is going to teach you. And if you stick around to the end, I have the best piece of advice. It took me years to figure this out, but once you figure it out, it really helps, and it certainly helps you kill more birds. So let's get into the video so we can have you capping birds and counting spurs. So first things first, turkey hunting season has actually two seasons. It's a spring season and a fall season. We are going to be talking about spring season. That's when most people want to start turkey hunting. They've been, cooped up all winter long. They want to get out and about. They want to stretch their legs. They want to get back to hunting. So let's just talk about spring. So number one thing you got to start with is you got to have your turkey license. And that's something that's over the counter in almost every single state. I doubt there's any lottery kind of picks left. It's usually very simple. Most states allow one male bird, sometimes two with just a single license. Next thing, let's talk about weapon of choice for hunting turkey. You could go with a bow if you're someone that's really into bow hunting and you want to try that. You can go that route. I would not recommend it for your first time trying to turkey hunt. Honestly, your best bet is just go with a plain old shotgun, 20 gauge or 12 gauge. If you have something like a 16 gauge or something that's a little bit more unique, you can use that. The reason I recommend 12 or 20 is purely for availability of ammo. And honestly, either 12 or 20, I've used both on birds. They both work great. Whatever you have laying around will probably get the job done. So speaking of shotguns, let's talk about ammo. Look, this is heavy shot. This is what I personally like to use. This is some number 4 right here. And then sometimes I will use a blend option. This is a 5, 6, and 7 all blended together. Do you have to get shotgun shells that have a turkey on it? No, you do not. You don't have to do that. The one thing you do have to worry about if it's lead or non-lead and based off of where you're hunting. Some places do not want you to use lead shot. So you have to use something more like this, which is a tungsten or steel to shoot your bird. Just be mindful of that and make sure that you know the rules and regulations in the area that you are trying to hunt. While we're speaking about shotguns, one thing I will kind of say that is an add-on that either maybe you have or if you want to spend a little bit of money, and that's a choke. This is a turkey choke I use. It's a full choke. Is it something you have to have? No. Is it useful to use? Yes. Honestly, most of the time I shoot birds so close that I don't need it, but it is a nice add-on. Just wanted to throw it in there as a nice to have, but certainly not necessary. One thing you are going to want to do is to make sure to take the gun that you want to use and the ammo you want to use and see how that patterns. It's really important to understand your pattern and how the ammo that you're planning on using works with your firearm. Definitely pattern it out. Try it at 20 yards, try it a little bit farther at 40 yards, and see how far you can kind of stretch it and feel comfortable with a grouping of pellets that are going to be lethal for you to be effective as a turkey hunter. Most of the time, I take fairly close shots, about 20 yards or less, but some people sometimes will stretch it out a little bit. It's good to know the distance that your gun's going to be effective to. Next, let's talk about talking turkey. Now, you're going to see people using these diaphragm calls, and yes, they're great and they work well. The best thing about them is that your hands are free to be on your shotgun when you're using them. The thing is with them, they're not the easiest thing to get the hang of. They're not that hard, but they're not that easy either. And considering the price of them, they're not crazy expensive, especially if you get something a little bit more affordable. So I recommend if you want to get into it, turkey hunting, pick one up, play with it a little bit. The big thing is to practice with it if you plan on having a face covering, which you will most likely if you're turkey hunting. Practice with that face covering. It's going to change the way you move your mouth. It's going to change the sound that you're going to make. So therefore, you should practice exactly how you're going to hunt with it. If you're new though, and you want something a little bit more simple, what I would honestly recommend is a good old fashioned box call. These are simple, they're affordable, highly effective. My first time turkey hunting, I called in a tom using this exact box call. Now, as you can see, I have an elastic around this. They don't come with this all the time. I do recommend, if you have something laying around, to put one on it, because that way it doesn't make any noise when you're walking in. These are so useful, and anyone that's a beginner can start talking turkey right away. Obviously, you have to have your hands on it, so you can't have your hands on your shotgun, but we'll talk a little bit more about effectiveness and how to kind of deal with calling and talking to birds a little bit later. If you want a different call, and my personal favorite call, I love slate calls. Why do I like slate calls more than anything else? To me, I have the most control, I feel like, in terms of volume. I can do the most kinds of calls that I like. Personally, I just really enjoy them. The other part about it, I don't have to worry about rain with this, which is nice in comparison to a box call. If it gets wet, it might not sound ideal. If it's raining out, I can use a slate call, no problem, especially with a zinc striker. I don't have to worry about that. Now, this one, as you can see, has nice wood. Obviously, it's gonna be a little bit more expensive, but you can get a good solid slate call for a fairly affordable price. This one right here, this little deuce I've been using for a while, has called in plenty of birds, and I like this size, especially if you're someone that wants to move around a little bit and have a little bit more run and gun kind of tactics. If you're gonna have any other call on you other than what you want to use to talk to turkeys, the best call I like for shot gobbling is this, and this is a crow call. It's very simple, it's very easy to use. I like them if I'm trying to locate birds after my very early morning hunt. They've already gotten off the roost, I haven't found any birds, it's maybe 8 o'clock, maybe it's 9, 10 even. I'm trying to find out where they are. I'll start using this sometimes to see if I can locate them by shot gobbling them. Okay, so now you have your shotgun, you have your ammo, you're ready to talk turkey. What's the next thing? Let's talk about decoys. Personally, for decoys, this is my thoughts, and this is what I like to do. I like these cheap foam decoys. The reason I like them is, one reason in particular, is that I don't have to worry about them in a bulky fashion. I can roll them up just like this, and I can stuff them into my backpack, and they're really easy and they're so lightweight. I like these a lot. Now, in terms of running a Jake compared to a hen, I personally will always run just a single hen, and I'll tell you why. The reason I run just a single hen is that the point of my decoys is just to keep the eyes of the bird I'm trying to hunt focus on the decoy and not looking around. If they don't have that, oftentimes they're looking around trying to find the female bird. So if I have a decoy out there, if they see it, they'll lock onto it and they'll just be focused on that. That's my sole purpose of having a decoy. Now, Jakes that have already gone through the season a little bit, it's past opening season, they've maybe gotten a few scuffs with bigger toms, they will see decoys sometimes and be extremely wary about coming in. They don't want to mess around. They've already got their butts kicked a bunch of times. That will make them hesitant to come in. And if you're new and you don't care about shooting a mature tom, which you shouldn't, you should care about being successful, that's going to be a detriment to you to have a male bird there. I know they make various kinds of weaker looking Jakes and stuff like that. Personally, female single hens have always worked for me. That's what I like. Use what works for you. You can go no decoy at all, but I would say if you don't use a decoy, be ready for them to be looking around, be very still in general, but even more so if you're not running decoys. Okay, let's talk camo a little bit and a little bit about concealment. So turkey's main sense is their eyesight. They don't care about smell. Sound is a thing for them, but eyesight is their number one thing. Movement is what they're going to key in on. The thing you have to realize about turkeys, when they're in their mating season and they're making a lot of noise, they're calling out to female hens. What they are doing is essentially telling every predator in the woods, hey, here I am. So they're hyper paranoid, and I mean very paranoid. I've been talking to toms early in the morning using my turkey calls, and I've called in numerous amounts of coyotes. It's easy pickings for predators during that time of the year because they don't have to try to seek out the turkeys. The turkeys are literally telling them, this is where I am. So you have to keep that in mind. So when it comes to camo, head to toe, that's what I like to do. I mix camo. Don't worry about having to look all the same and everything like that. It's more about breaking up your pattern, and movement is the most important thing. With that, what I use to really help me be able to kind of go wherever I want, set up wherever I want, especially if you're new to turkey hunting, you might not have a private place that you can go. You're going to be public land hunting. I use a simple rollout blind. I'll show it real quick. This thing is so easy and it works fantastic. Now, remember how I was talking about why I use a slate call and how I like using a slate call and all that stuff, and why I don't care so much about using diaphragm calls? The reason I don't worry so much about having both my hands on my call and not on my shotgun immediately, well, it's because of a rollout blind. With a rollout blind, they can't see me moving my hands. It blocks them from seeing that. On top of that, it allows me to switch from my call to my shotgun if I need to immediately. It also allows me to raise the barrel of my shotgun and put it on my knee before they're aware that I'm even doing it. It's a huge advantage, and I really, really recommend one. For the price, I mean, it's hard to beat. They're like 25 bucks. And the best part is you can put 2 people behind it. I fit me and a buddy comfortably behind just a single rollout blind. Now, if you want to get a little bit fancier and you're worried about weather, sure, you can get another pop-up blind or something like that if that's what you want to do. I like using a rollout. I just put myself up against, some fallen trees, or have something that's steady for my back to be leaning up against. I roll out my blind, I put my backpack down, I put my calls out, I get everything ready. And that's how I like to roll for setup when I'm trying to hunt on public land. It also allows you to set up and then tear down quickly and then reset up somewhere else if you're not having luck in a certain location. So as promised, here is the #1 tip I can give you for turkey hunting that will absolutely help you kill more birds. And that is, what you are trying to get the tom to do, or the male bird to do, is not natural. Naturally, the way things work is that the female bird hears the male bird gobble, and then she goes to him. So you're trying to get him to do the opposite. This is where most new hunters fail, completely fail. They hear a gobble, they call back. They hear a gobble, they call back. The problem with doing this over and over and over again, and I've done it myself, what you are saying to him is, I hear you, do you hear me? And he's like, yeah, I hear you, come on over. And you're saying, yeah, but do you hear me? I hear you. And he's just like, yeah, come on over. Actually, if you watch them sometimes in the field, they'll just stay in the one area and they'll just strut around in a circle, and they won't leave it because they're like, here I am, I'm presenting myself. Why aren't you coming to me? I'm just going to sit here and gobble. It's the #1 thing that new beginners to turkey hunting don't understand. What you need to do is, if you hear a turkey gobble, right, you should call back to him. After you call back to him, wait at least 15 minutes to call to him again. Because at that point, what he's going to do is he's going to get curious, and he's going to know roughly where you are. So he's going to keep walking towards you slowly and cautiously. He's going to gobble. Don't say anything. Wait for him to come to you. After 15 minutes, if you want to let out another call to see if you can figure out where he is, maybe he goes quiet, do another little call and see if he lights up again. If he does, go quiet again. If you can visually see him, do not talk at all. This is where a decoy comes in. I find that when the male bird can see my decoy clearly, they oftentimes will go silent and they'll just slowly make their way in. Be patient. It can sometimes take an hour for a turkey to go 50 yards. In the woods, they are very slow. They're in no rush to get to that decoy. So take your time. Sometimes they'll run, sometimes they'll just slowly walk over. That's my best advice to you, is you need to realize the natural order of how turkeys mate. So that's what I've got for you. Hopefully that helps you out, get out in the woods and be successful with your first time turkey hunting. If you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button. With that said, shoot straight and knock something down.